All right, so now we're going to talk about Product Hunt, the big one. So, Product Hunt, it's just a directory for new products and startups and podcasts. They've kind of expanded over time to include like books and games and a whole bunch of other different categories. But the key stuff you need to know over 400,000 registered users, and that's as of last year. And there's at least 2 to 3 times more lurkers, so just people who visit the site and don't have a registered account. It's an insane amount of people that are an audience to Product Hunt. It's a very tech scene driven audience though, so they're very much like Silicon Valley people and startup people and founders and things. So if you have stuff that's kind of geeky or stuff that's kind of that's really high tech and stuff like that, it's going to resonate really really well with these guys. Um, and basically, what Product Hunt does is it lists cool products and allows for some type of discussion to go on. And it's all based on popularity, essentially. That's how the rankings work. And it can be a really awesome source of continuous beta users as well as really non beta users over time. It's kind of a continuous source of traffic. But one really key thing here is your product must have something consumable upon signing up. You can't just have them hit a beta page and then go nowhere and it just says thank you. Nobody on Product Hunt's going to like that. You have to have something of substance behind it. So if you're in beta, you're in closed beta, launch on Product Hunt with the ability to bypass the wait. But ideal case, have your product to a point where it's about ready to launch into open beta or just completely open. And that's where Product Hunt is absolutely perfect. And the potential here is, if you don't do things well and it doesn't appear on the popular side, on the popular page, you maybe get 10, 20, 30 users, which is not the worst thing in the world. But if things go really right, you could be talking about thousands of users. And especially if you're outside of beta, you basically launched your app, you have pricing in place, you could be talking about tens of thousands of dollars generated from launching on Product Hunt. This is why I separated it out into its own thing. So a couple case studies just to help you understand just how amazing a resource this is. Startupresources.io, simple site, basically just lists up a whole bunch of different startup resources and things, and basically links out to all of them with descriptions and that. It's a curated resource of startup resources. They hit #1 on Product Hunt when they launched. They generated 5,200 unique visitors in day one, and over 16,000 over the first 6 days. And I think it added up to something like over 30, 40,000 unique visitors over time in the first month. And they added 600 people to the mailing list, which is pretty big considering it's essentially that they doubled their mailing list size. And obviously, it's a startup resources site, so they're just going to click around and view things. It's not there's no real need for them to sign up to the mailing list. So the fact that they got some folks signed up is pretty awesome. Kindly is a company that does, it's kind of like a more secure version of a credit card, something along those lines. But basically what happened is, this is kind of early days of Product Hunt. They had 191 signups in their beta, or in kind of their wait list. And within 48 hours of being on Product Hunt and being featured in the top 10 there, they generated over 20,000 signups. Obviously, this isn't directly just from Product Hunt, but they got featured on multiple press sites, including some Mashable articles and things like that, just articles with tons and tons of shares. But directly from Product Hunt, they generated almost 7,500 unique visitors, which is a ton of traffic. And from resulting like referring traffic where they got featured and they got press, tens and tens of thousands of visitors, which is pretty insane. Solid, another one it's a little bit more recent, in the last year or so. They showed up, I think it was #2 or 3 on Product Hunt in the end. 606 signups directly from Product Hunt, and over in the first day, and then over 2,000 over the course of the first week. And referral traffic, massive boost there, up to a few thousand unique visitors in the first day and tens of thousands in the first week. But the really cool thing was their conversion rate into signups actually increased from Product Hunt. There's a 22% increase, 22% conversion rate, which was almost a double double their existing conversion rate, which is pretty awesome. So there are people that are like willing to test things out and try things out, and they are looking for new stuff to try and new stuff to like dive into. So you will see that naturally, that the conversion rate of your startup basically increases with Product Hunt, because people are just interested to know what's behind the scenes. So some very key tips with Product Hunt: plan your launch weeks, if not months, in advance. And I'm not kidding here. There's so many things that can go wrong. You want to plan out every minute detail, and plan for everything, because you should expect that everything is going to fail miserably. Inevitably, things happen. Expect tons of unexpected things that just go on and happen that are way out of your control. That's just how it works with Product Hunt. Similarly, if you get on the first page of Hacker News, you're going to notice the exact same experience, just tons of stuff going wrong. Your site crashes, like anything and everything that could go wrong inevitably will, try to go wrong. But the one key thing there is be ready to pull a full day. Don't expect to sleep in the first 24 hours after launching. An ideal case, you actually have some folks to help you out with that. So, when we launched Player.me, there's 3 of us, and there was always someone awake for the first week that we launched Player.me, and that was just launching the beta. When we launched on Product Hunt, it was significantly more. But be ready to pull long hours, and not long hours staring at a screen. Like, you're going to be active in those 24 hours. Expect it. One really key thing is don't explicitly ask anybody for votes. You can ask the small community that you have. If you have like 10 friends that are going to help you out and launch, you can ask them. It's totally fine. But when you email out, when you send out tweets, things like that, you can't explicitly ask for votes. It's part of Product Hunt's rules, and it's very much frowned upon. The way you have to phrase it is, hey, check it out, or can you give me some feedback, things like that, or can you support us? You can't explicitly ask for votes, unless of course it is your own small community. And by small community, I don't mean your beta customers. Don't email people and ask for votes that you don't know personally. If it's friends and family and things, that's totally fine, because in reality, how are they going to know when it comes straight down to it? So pre-launch. As I mentioned, there's tons of planning here. So few key things you want to do beforehand. Test your site and your hosting to see if they can handle traffic spikes. There's a number of ways to do this. You can pretty much just Google for it. If you're on Mac, there's a couple tools that you can just install on your computer, and they can help you do that. But essentially, you want to make sure that your site can handle 3,000 to 5,000 monthly unique visitors in the first day, maybe even 10,000 now, because the audience has grown quite big for Product Hunt. But make sure it can handle it. So if you're on something like DigitalOcean or a virtual private server, and you have very hard memory limits where it can't be changed on the fly, look into that and test that first. We had that issue with Player.me. We were on Linode, not Player.me, with the Great Draft Challenge. When we launched that was a viral site. We had millions of visitors in the first couple days. And we were on DigitalOcean. We were on a $5 DigitalOcean server, and I was on the phone with DigitalOcean for the first day and a half, trying to figure out, how can we scale up the RAM without shutting this thing down? Because every minute you're talking about thousands of visitors lost. With Player.me, we luckily had a bit of leeway there. We were on Linode, which is a virtual private server hosting, and they allow you to add resources on demand. But it got really, really expensive. So make sure you try and do this testing beforehand. It's going to save you a lot of money. With Linode, we could have saved $200-300 in the first month by just pre-planning that. Have an email opt-in form that actually converts first. So don't go to Product Hunt first. As I mentioned, go to other places first and test. And once you have something that works, then that's when you're ready for Product Hunt. Similarly, get your retargeting down. As I mentioned, people are going to convert more so than just regular traffic that comes through if they come from Product Hunt. But get your retargeting down to capture the other 60-70% of people who don't convert into your product, or to check it out. It's really simple. Just get Facebook retargeting ad or Google display retargeting ad set up, and it just has to say, hey, thanks for thanks for checking it out. Click here to get this, or whatever the case. Simple way to do is get them to opt into a lead magnet or something along those lines. But make sure you have that in place, because building that audience on Facebook and Google and everything, that's going to be really valuable for the future. Put together an exclusive offer for the Product Hunt community as well. They obviously, exclusivity is always a big thing. It's an enticing offer. Oftentimes, if you're at a point where you're charging for your product, this means, go out there and say, hey, you guys get 20% off as Product Hunt users, something like that. Because in reality, I mean, if you're at the stage where you can sell stuff, Product Hunt is a great way to generate a few $1,000s in MRR, if not more, just by literally submitting something to a site. So have something exclusive for them, and make it your best offer. Don't offer like a really shitty discount and then try and change it later, because it's not going to work, to be perfectly honest. I've had it happen with clients where we did that, and they, after the fact said, oh, we should have done 20-30% off. We should have given them something better. And it's like, well, sucks for you. And when you do create that offer, use something like intro bar. You can manually code this if you're using a landing page builder or something like that. But intro bar is it's a little thing, kind of like Hello Bar and other email capture softwares. Just shows up at the top of your site. Let me show you what it looks like. It looks like this. And it basically allows you to drive traffic to a specific URL, whether it's your homepage or otherwise, and show a particular message. So in this case, it'd go to whatever your sign up page is that you want to be launching with a small little code at the end of the URL, and it's going to show this unique intro to people from Product Hunt. It'll say, hey, Product Hunters, or however you word it, here's this really awesome offer that I have for you. If you go on Product Hunt, click around a little bit, you'll inevitably find a few sites using this. Make sure you come up with a very awesome slogan and description that's going to go on your Product Hunt listing, and actually test this. Like, send it out to people, use it as a subject line, like A/B test this, because it actually does make a very big difference. Pretty much what you get with a Product Hunt listing is a name. So like your title and a description and a small image. The small image goes a long way in converting, but the description is really what sells it. Like, we're the Uber for dry cleaners, like whatever that is. That little description is what drives a lot of clicks. So make sure you test it, come up with something that's good. Don't just come up with something on the fly. Invest some time in actually thinking of that, because it can make a very big difference. And by big, I mean 20-30% of traffic. You could lose 20-30% of potential traffic by having a really garbage description. Like, it can make a very big difference. Plan and schedule your coverage. I mentioned this already, but don't let a single minute or a single hour be uncovered where someone's just not there, whether it's on email or whether it's on Twitter or whatever the case. Because what happens with Product Hunt is, if you launch and you get on the first page, you get on the popular page, you will get contacted by press, you'll get contacted by investors, a whole slew of things going to happen, and you want to make sure you keep on top of it, because it'll pile up really quickly. Again, we had the same type of thing with Player.me. We had the same type of thing with a couple other client launches where they say they'll get to it, and all of a sudden they're 2 days out, where press isn't going to wait 2 days, so they lost all these press opportunities. And on the investor side of things, obviously they are also not the most patient of people, because they want to give you money, or they want to vet you to give you money. So make sure that you have things covered. Don't let things go. An ideal case, have a person or two available to help you out, whether it's just managing emails or whatever the case. It's totally worth it, even if you have to pay someone like a couple $100 to be there with you for the first day. Pre-launch checklist continued. Find a top Product Hunt hunter, so someone who submits products to Product Hunt, and build a relationship with them, because they are going to be the person, ideally, they're going to be the person who will help you launch your product. There's a couple of reasons for this. If they are a popular hunter on Product Hunt, they have a good following on Product Hunt. And what happens is, when they post something on Product Hunt, every person that's following them gets notified. I don't think I'm anywhere on that list. I have like 500 followers on Product Hunt, which is a pretty good reach. And in a couple products that I posted there recently, like it shows. But there's some people on there who have like thousands or tens of thousands of followers where, if they post your product, it's pretty much inevitable you're going to hit the first page. You're going to hit that popular page. So seek them out. Don't go after, the top 5. Like, go after the folks that are number 5 to number 20 or number 30, the folks who aren't getting as much attention from everybody else, and build an actual relationship. Like, try to deliver some value there, enough so that you can say, hey, we're kind of planning our launch. Would you be up for just taking 10 seconds and posting our product on Product Hunt at this date? Like, build that relationship, make sure they're in a good place to do that. So once you find that one person, you're good to go for that launch date. And one other thing that you can do there is gather supporters to help spread your message. So there's a couple tools that do this. There's Thunderclap and a few others. I recommend HeadTalker because it's free. Basically what this thing does is kind of like a viral effect starter. So you get people in, they go to this website, and it basically says, hey, can we send this particular pre-scheduled message on your Twitter account and Facebook account and everything else at this particular time? So that way you can get everyone who's on your beta list and say, hey, go over to HeadTalker, sign up for our campaign, and at this date, at this time, when we're ready to launch, it's going to launch this message across your social network. So you can amplify the following, and basically, you're saying, hey, can you support us in making this product that much bigger? A lot of people are usually pretty open to doing it, especially because, in reality, they're just sending out one message that they don't even have to send out. They just have to say yes to having it pre-scheduled. But one key thing here is when you set up that campaign, you only get the one message if that's what you've set up. So ideal case, set up 2 campaigns, one campaign to send it off the bat, one campaign as kind of like a follow-up. So that way they, get sent when you're on Product Hunt, when you launch, get sent again, the next day or later in the day when you've been launched for a few hours. Maybe you're battling to be on the popular page, things like that. But gather supporters, get them in this app because it's going to make a massive, massive difference. And then the final thing here is set up something to monitor your site. I talked about the sheer amount of traffic you can get. Set up something to monitor your site for downtime. So if your site does go offline, at least I've had it happen a few times in launches where, site goes viral, site goes down, no one notices for an hour and a half. It's surprising, but it happens. And we had it happen once when one of our clients got a TechCrunch article. They weren't monitoring anything, and the site was down for an hour and a half after it launched. They missed out on a ton of traffic and tons of users as a result of it. And I think they also probably missed out on a few investor opportunities there, because obviously no investor is going to like hitting a page that is down. Says a lot for your tech team. So put something in place, monitor what's happening. Ideally, get something that can send text messages to you, and I think Pingdom allows you to do that. That way, for sure you're going to see it, and you can take action on that. Now, once you've done all the pre-launch checklist stuff, now it's time for your pre-launch, which is all the stuff you're going to do in the week or so leading up to Product Hunt. So one really key thing is prime your beta list for upvotes and for supporting you in this. The acceleration really makes a difference. So if you have a whole bunch of upvotes that happen in the first hour, that makes a very big difference. If you get 100 in the first hour, and over time you get 1,000, that 100 in the first hour is going to make all the difference there, 100%. So prime your list, make sure they're ready to actually support you in it. Say, hey, sometime in the future we're going to be launching on Product Hunt. Click this button or click this link to let us know if you'd like to support us. Just, simple segmenting if you want to. But make sure they're kind of primed and ready to go. Make sure you have your list of like highly active folks on email versus those who aren't. And basically now at this point in time, you're going to be building out your lists for promotion. So all the manual stuff that you're going to do when you've launched, and that includes building lists of relevant Facebook groups, LinkedIn groups, Google Plus communities, anything related to your product, anything related to the market that you serve. And you basically want to list out places where you can pop in when you do launch and say, hey, we got featured on Product Hunt, we do this, or we help people do this. We'd really appreciate your support. Pretty simple message. You want to build a list of communities there that you can start reaching out to when you do get launched. Similarly, you also want to you can build a list of just Twitter handles of folks who might be interested in your product, but it's even better if you just go through your beta list and try and find their Twitter handles. So if they don't respond by email, they should respond by Twitter, and you can automate that through a couple tools. But having that list to begin with is going to be the key part there. And as I mentioned, you can kind of tell your friends and family to upvote for you, but you can't explicitly say it to anyone else. So my highest recommendation is to build a group of seed voters. So these are going to be folks who will help you in the initial voting process and will help you accelerate that process by directly giving you votes. So it could be 5 or 6 friends you have locally. Maybe you're part of a mastermind and there's 10, 20 people in there that are kind of cool, and you can just say, hey, we're going to launch this date, this time. Can I email you to get this voted? And the key thing there is if they're going to go and vote for it, they need to go on Product Hunt, go to the newest page, find you in the listing, and then vote for it. And that's going to be the most influential type of vote that you can get, those that are a natural discovery of things. So build that list, build that group of people, because without that, it's you're essentially not going to go anywhere. Honestly, that's kind of just what you need to make it work. So have that group in place. My recommendation is have at least 10 folks in that group. Ideally, maybe more like 15, 20. And that way you'll have a really good seed to start with. And as I mentioned already, make sure your product is in a very solid position where it is in beta or in open beta or beyond. And one key thing is here, make sure there's no technical issues. If you have a bug in your product, don't launch, because what's going to happen is people are going to find it, and then inevitably you're going to burn a whole bunch of folks. And the thing with Product Hunt, as I mentioned again, is you're going to get press, you're going to get investors messaging you. Like, you can't have things go wrong that blatantly about, because the problem is people will then report on it, and all of a sudden you're the app that went viral with a really garbage, like very basic bug, and no one's going to want to invest in you because it's just bad tech. So be in a good position where you know that there's no real issues, there's no real bugs that are major. Maybe it's some minor stuff, that's totally fine, but have it in a very solid position before you launch. People notice. You may think that they'll skip it over. People will notice. It's pretty insane. There's a lot of technical people on Product Hunt. They find the most minuscule things. But to go along with that, I mentioned press quite a few times. Set up some type of Google alert, whether it's for your name or your product name or anything else you can kind of think of there. Whether it's like your personal name or maybe it's a co-founder's name, all that stuff. Set up Google alerts, because inevitably there will be mentions that you don't know about. And the key thing is you want to be able to monitor the comments and things that go on there, because the discussion is very important. The discussion around your launch is extremely important, because those people can also be turned into folks who can support your launch on Product Hunt. They can get you even further reach by upvoting your product, by sending it out on Twitter, so many different ways. And you want to make sure that you're aware of every single opportunity to interact with a community like that, especially if it gets live on some type of news site, whether it's TechCrunch or VentureBeat or something like that. There's often a pretty awesome discussion that goes on there, especially if you have a good product. And being a part of that discussion is very important. And the final thing there, just a quick tip: prepare your launch to fall on a Tuesday. Here's why. So this is the Product Hunt upvoting tendency across. This is actually from 2015, and there's a couple of reasons why Tuesday makes sense. One, it's not a day when you're going to have like major companies launching, because they go for the Wednesday. Inevitably they go for the day that has the most trending stuff going on, and they go for the day when there's the most amount of traffic. But if you launch on the Tuesday, you still get to take part in some of that traffic from the Wednesday onwards, as well as the rest of the week. So inevitably, you get a very good chunk of traffic over the course of the entire week, and not just Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and so on. The other thing is, it's early enough that if you hit the top 3, or you hit the top for your particular category, you could be featured on Product Hunt's newsletter, which reaches a whole massive audience. And as a result of that, you could also be featured in collections and things that also reach even bigger audiences. So Tuesday just gives you the best grounds to go out there and potentially hit so many milestones. And that's why, plan for a Tuesday if you can. Those are some of the reasons why, and it just works. So let's talk about the launch process. Pretty simple, 7 steps, and then some steps, if things happen. But basically, you get your chosen hunter in place, have them hunt your product, and immediately contact you to tell you when it's done. Or set a time beforehand, even better. If you can say, 10 a.m. on Tuesday, January 29th, launch our product on Product Hunt. Even better. That way you know exactly what steps to take. But have them email or text you the link to your product on Product Hunt, and then the real work starts. You got to email your circle of seed voters, your friends and family, email them, SMS them, whatever you need to do to get people to go and vote. And do this as a little bit of a drip. So if you have 20 people, take the next 5 minutes or so and start messaging those folks. Don't message them all at the same time, because inevitably what happens is, if Product Hunt sees a whole bunch of votes that looks kind of fishy come in all within the course of like 10 seconds, they're going to be like, hey, something's going on here. But if it happens over the course of 15, 20 minutes, which inevitably will happen if you message folks over a couple of minutes there, because not everybody checks their emails and stuff all at once, you'll get votes coming in over time, which looks a little bit more normal. And they all help. It all helps. Next up, share your message on your social profiles for your startup as well as your own. Just say, hey, we're on Product Hunt. We'd love it if you can give us some feedback, or if you can support us in our endeavor of trying to be really awesome and generate a whole bunch of buzz. Here's the link to the Product Hunt listing, and then that's basically going to incite people to go to your listing and upvote, which is always awesome. And if you've built up a decent audience there on social through your beta customers, or beta users and things, you're in really good shape there. Then you want to launch your head talker message. So ideally, you've scheduled out a specific time for your product to be hunted, and within the first hour or two is when your head talker message launches. That way, you're in a place where you have the initial seed voters go through, and then you have a nice big boost that comes from your beta list. You have to kind of time this entire thing as if it was a symphony, an orchestra, or symphony at the orchestra. Just everything has its particular time and place, and it all has to happen in a good sequence. And you need a bit of luck to make it happen, but if it happens, things explode. And step 5 in making that happen is emailing your list. So email your beta list, email personal list, whatever list you have. Email them, let them know that you're live. And you could also go the hacky way of LinkedIn, export all of the folks you're connected to on LinkedIn and email them as well. I wouldn't recommend it, but in reality, if you have like 2,000 people there, it's a pretty good start of a list that'll help you out there. But you should have enough beta customers at this point where you can email that beta list, let them know that you're live, say, hey, support us. And I have swipe files that I'll give you in the description below. That way, you have something you can just copy and paste and get it out there. Step 6 there, begin reaching out to your beta users via email and Twitter. So anybody who isn't in that initial push where you do the mass message out, anybody who doesn't seem like they're responding or whatever the case, start reaching out on Twitter, start reaching out on Facebook, anywhere your beta customers live, where you've identified who's who. Reach out to them on every channel possible, because in reality, every vote matters here, and it does make a very massive difference. So take the time, start reaching out, and step 7 there, post the news to those Facebook, LinkedIn, and Google Plus group. So, same message that I mentioned, hey, we got mentioned on, or sorry, we launched on Product Hunt. We'd love it if you can support us. Here's what we do. Here's why it's really important to us. The whole spiel there. But post on all those different groups. Within all of those 7 steps is a very significant foundation of traffic that can pull you up on Product Hunt into the popular page if done well. And what happens is, if you do get on the popular list, then there's even more stuff for you to do. As I mentioned, it's kind of a never-ending day. So the first thing you want to do if you get to the popular list, you notice that you should be refreshing that page like every 10 seconds to see if you are. But once you're on the popular list, email your list again and let them know that you need the extra boost. This is when you basically are saying, hey, thanks for supporting us, but hey, we're fighting for the top 3 spot on Product Hunt. It would mean a lot to us if you could go in and vote, and if you could retweet the announcement and things like that. You basically want to hit that list again and say, hey, we need an extra little boost, as every little vote counts. It's going to be significant. Similarly, you want to ask for support everywhere else. Tweet for support. Go and follow up on those group posts and comment and say, hey, we'd love your support. We're fighting for the top 3. And ask the new signups who have come through Product Hunt by this point, ask them for support. They're going to be coming in. You can email them and say, hey, welcome. Thanks for coming through Product Hunt. We'd really appreciate your support because we're fighting to stay on the popular page. We're fighting to get in the top 3 even. And those folks are inevitably going to be product hunters. They can go in and upvote, and it's going to be much more significant because they don't need to go and create an account for Product Hunt. So, that's probably the best step to go for in the end is, ask those new signups if you can, if you have the system in place to set up and ask them for support, and inevitably they will respond in kind. So now, during your launch, there's 3 key things that you really want to be doing here. 1, keep an eye on your emails. Keep an eye on them like a hawk, and not just your personal email. Keep an eye on every single email tied to your name, because in the end, press and investors and other things, they'll just pick up whatever email shows up first, and you want to make sure that you are on top of it all. You want to make sure that you are always checking what's going on, and exactly what's going on and exactly who's sending you messages when, because when it comes down to it, press opportunities and things, they're very fleeting. You want to make sure that you capitalize on them as quickly as possible. Similarly, check Product Hunt comments and comments on any other site where you're mentioned, especially Product Hunt comments, because they can make a difference. People will ask questions, and people will want to know more information. They'll want to know how you compare to competitors, things like that. Make sure you're ready to answer those questions, and make sure you answer them in a very thorough way. Don't just try and send off a comment in 10 seconds because there's so many other things going on. Take a breather, take a minute, and write out a very thorough response, because those are the people that you have to impress. There are a lot of people who aren't registered on Product Hunt, or even users who are. Before they click through, they try and read the comments to understand what's going on. Someone may just flat out in the comments say, well, that's stupid, and a whole bunch of people just won't click through as a result of that. So take your time, respond to those comments, give insightful answers, and stay cool, keep your cool, even if people are trying to troll you and flame you and things like that. Make sure you're on point, you're just delivering value, and you're keeping a level head there. And the last thing there is settle in for a very long day or set of days. If everything goes well, settle in for many days, because you'll be receiving traffic and email inquiries and all this other stuff for the rest of the week, and you want to make sure you're well rested, well caffeinated, and you can keep going. But in the case that it is only the one day, that's totally fine too. But make sure you're in a good place to stay up that entire time until you start seeing traffic decline significantly. When you see traffic start to decline significantly back to original levels, then you can start weaning off and you can start rolling down and getting to a point where you actually can get some sleep. Finally, post Product Hunt, some really quick way to just drive a lot more traffic is write a case study. Write a case study and share your learnings from being on Product Hunt. especially if you did get on the popular page, especially if you got in the top 3. Traffic will inevitably slow down on Product Hunt, but what you want to do is try and give yourself that extra little boost for people who are interested in Product Hunt and other, it's the same area of folks that would be on Product Hunt. They're tech scene founders and things like that. Write up a case study, share your learnings. They're going to be interested. And if it's some really awesome numbers, like you did get in the top 3, you did get a lot of awesome stuff that happened, inevitably that blog post or that case study can drive a lot of traffic for you and drive a lot of signups and things into your site as well. So share that with your list when you write it out. Share it with your audience and with friends and people who've messaged you. Some of that stuff can be turned into press. So if you had a really awesome result, like write that up into an article and send it out to a few publications. You might get really lucky and get featured somewhere. But this is a really easy way for you to go out there after you've had a whole bunch of traffic come through and get an extra little boost out of the result of that. So I hope by this point you kind of understand just how much is involved in launching on Product Hunt. But what I'd also suggest is when you start to prepare for this launch, watch this video a couple of times, go through some of the swipe files and things that we have there. I'll pull together the launch process into a bit of a checklist. That way you have that in place. And I'll pull together some of the pre-launch items and things into a checklist as well, so you have those to work from. But make sure that you invest the time in doing it right, because you can't really do it again. There are people who launch with a 2.0, but in reality, are you going to launch a 2.0 in the first couple of months of having your product live? Chances are the answer is no. So do things right, take the time. Unlike a lot of things in the startup space, take your time, do it really right, and the results will speak for themselves.